Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. It. Yeah, I don't either. Okay, it shows it's good on my end. Well, it's recording the audio.
Oh.
Oh, I see it. Yeah, I see it live on my own end now. World is waving.
We're good.
Right?
Once again, the Environmental Commission for February 13th, 2025, 7 o'clock. Sorry, the live stream was not working. We were having trouble. So Jenna Black is starting her presentation.
All right. Okay, so I didn't get very far in, so I'm not going to go all the way back. Basically, my name is Jenna. I am an AmeriCorps New Jersey Watershed Ambassador, and I'm kind of going over what that is. So basically, so AmeriCorps, we are an AmeriCorps program. We are a federally funded grant-based program that is based in service and serves in different underserved areas. So that could be health, that could be veteran services, that could be disability services, and also the sector that I am under, which is environmental stewardship. So the slide says that there are 20 ambassadors. That is kind of true. There are 20 watershed ambassadors, but there are also 3 source water protection ambassadors on top of that. So there are 23 of us. The 20 of us serve the 20 different watersheds within New Jersey, and then the 3 source water protection ambassadors focus on our source water, so our drinking water. And they are actually doing a huge project based in our lead service lines with Rutgers. They are identifying different homes that still do have lead service lines feeding their drinking water. So basically, oh no. Man.
Try again. Maybe try again.
There we go. Okay. So basically, my role is to promote watershed stewardship, and we do that through a couple of different ways, mainly through education and direct involvement. So education being kind of what I'm doing right now, talking to anyone who will listen to me about watershed stewardship, environmental stewardship, water quality, pollution. I go into schools, I talk at libraries, so anyone who will listen, I will talk to them about watershed stewardship. And then the direct community involvement is projects that are done in our communities, mainly over the spring. So we set up cleanups, tree plantings, rain garden plantings, anything to kind of help keep our environment cleaner and get as many community members as involved as possible. So we also do field work where we do stream assessments to assess the health of the streams in our area as well. So what is a watershed? I've said it a lot in this presentation so far. Not a lot of people are actually aware that you are basically always in a watershed no matter where you are. A watershed, there are 20 within New Jersey. We look at it at a state level, but it can be looked at basically any scale. It can be from a global scale to a national scale, to a statewide scale, to it could go down to the puddle in your backyard if you really wanted to look at it that way. Because what a watershed is it is an area around a body of water that is delineated by elevation. So all of the rain, precipitation, snow, will eventually drain down into that one body of water. So for this area here in Sparta, it is the Wachkill River. So you can't really see it that well, but if you look in the middle of that outlined area, the Wachkill River kind of sets right in there. So it starts down here in Sparta in Lake Mohawk, that is the headwaters, and it goes all the way up to the New York, New Jersey line up in the Vernon, Wantage area. And that elevation that delineates it is Wawayanda, High Point, the Sparta Mountains, all that fun stuff. So let's talk about lead. So I did want to kind of start with this slide because we're going to talk a lot about kind of some very scary stuff. It's going to get very much like lead is everywhere. And it does get a little like, what am I going to do? So I do like to start with there are things that you can do. We're going to see that lead is kind of everywhere, but there are things that we can do to kind of minimize our exposure to it, even though it does feel like it's kind of all over the place. All right, so what is lead? Lead is a blue-gray metal found in small amounts in the Earth's crust. So it is a natural element that is found everywhere. We do and have in the past mined it to manufacture goods and different things. So it does not degrade. So because it was used so much in the past and still in the current, that's how it's become so ubiquitous within our environment. It's impossible to identify with the naked eye. Once you kind of mold it into something, you can't really identify it from other metals that easily. And like I said, it does not biodegrade or disappear. So it will always be in our environment, which is why we're kind of about to see that it's everywhere. Where do you think lead can be found? I know personally when I think of lead, I don't know if this still rings true. I think of lead pencils, which is funny because there's no lead in pencils, really not since I've used them. It's always been graphite, but I do think of lead pencils. Another one that a lot of people think of is lead-based paint, paint chips. That's a big one. And that still rings true today because that is our main source of exposure, even today, even though we no longer use lead-based paint. So that's kind of why that's the first thing that comes into your mind. So, where can lead be found? It can be found in all parts of our environment. It is in the air, in the soil, in the water, and in our homes. So, like I said, it gets a little scary. We see lead everywhere. We're constantly exposed to it. So, it's going to get scary and then it's going to get better, I promise. Lead-based paint. It's found in older homes, basically pre-1978. In 1978, that is when Congress did pass the law stating that we can no longer use lead-based paint in our homes. But it was not taken out of those homes that were pre-1978. So it is still found in a lot of those homes today. And the major source of exposure is if that starts to peel, chip. A lot of that can become dust, which gets into the air and into our homes, and that is kind of our basic exposure to it. And then especially when you renovate those older homes, if you're not using a lead-certified individual that is making sure that that exposure is contained, that can be a huge source as well. Other potential sources of exposure, a lot of potteries, candles, toys, older ceramic ware. A lot of that paint was used in older ceramics, batteries, solder, and then a lot in ammunition and fishing tackle. So that is a huge source. We'll talk about hobbies and jobs. That's a huge source as well. And then another one that we think of is kind of our lead in our water. So that comes from those lead service lines because lead doesn't degrade. It was used as a what was thought as a good source for those lead service lines to carry our water because it doesn't degrade very easily. That was before we knew the health risks that went along with it. But it isn't just the pipe itself. It can be the solder that's in your pipe. Your pipe could be copper, but maybe the solder has lead in it, or a gasket or a washer. Anything in that system can be lead and cause that exposure. Also, your faucet itself, if it's old enough, could have lead parts in it as well. So making sure that you know you replace your faucets, your shower heads, if they are very, very old. And when you're purchasing them, just knowing that they are not lead-based as well. And then soil. We don't really think about lead being in our soil a whole lot. So it can settle in our soil and then end up being absorbed by plants. So it is recommended to use raised garden beds if you do plant mostly like leafy greens that you're planning on eating, because if you're planting tomatoes, that tomato won't absorb that lead and then kind of pass it along to you, but a leafy green like a kale or a spinach could. So those raised garden beds kind of act as a barrier between that soil that's maybe more natural than the topsoil that you are trying to plant in. And then also another source is spices, pottery, and then, like I stated before, ammunition and fish tackle. I think most ammunition is very lead-based, so trying to find a non-lead-based ammunition if you're a hunter or a fisher. So some vulnerable populations. The first one I think everyone thinks of are children under the age of 6. They are growing, their body absorbs a lot more than adults do, so they can absorb that lead a lot more. Their body doesn't flush out as much as our body would. Pregnant and nursing people, so kind of the same thing. If a pregnant individual is exposed to the lead, they can actually pass that exposure on to the fetus as well. And then adults with jobs or hobbies that do kind of create that exposure more so. So if you are a miner or if you're in construction and doing repairs on pre-1978 homes, or if you're a hunter or a fisherman. So the health effects that we see in children are behavior and learning problems, lower IQ, hyperactivity, slowed growth, hearing problems, and anemia. Like I said, as these children are growing, they're taking in as many nutrients as they can, so their body is absorbing as much as it can. And if lead does get into their system, the body will absorb it a lot more than an adult would. For pregnant people, they can pass the lead exposure onto the fetus. They're also more prone to miscarriages. They can it can actually create reproductive problems as well. And then it could pass along to the baby in their brain, their kidney, or their nervous system. And then health effects in adults. It can cause increased blood pressure, hypertension, decreased kidney function, and again, reproductive problems in both men and women. It doesn't just affect humans, it can affect animals, not only wildlife, but our pets as well. So another thing to think about. Wildlife, it does mainly affect birds, mammals, and amphibians, and it can be from maybe the soil that they're hanging out in, or even from that lead-based paint that maybe they're kind of getting exposed to in your backyard. Also, if another example would be if a hunter were to get a deer, leave the deer out in the wild, and then a bear were to come and eat that deer, that lead that is in that deer would actually transfer onto that bear as well. So it's kind of like it affects the whole food web if one aspect of it is exposed to lead. But don't worry, we can do something. We can lower our exposure risk to lead. It does feel like it's everywhere. You can track it in on your shoes if you're just walking around outside. It can be in the air in your home if it's dusty. But there is some small, easy things that we can do to kind of make it a little better. So, basic first one is to keep your home clean and dust-free. Very much so if you're in a pre-1978 home, but that's not the only case. You are tracking in dust and dirt all the time when you're walking in and out, and that is tracking in that lead. That could be from the soil or from different buildings that you have been in previously. So just making sure that you're kind of wiping everything down, keeping it dust-free, and making sure that you're doing that with a wet cloth. If it's done with a dry cloth, it kind of just, as we know, like dust kind of just goes into the air. So making sure that it's a wet cloth to make sure that you're actually kind of getting it out of the area rather than just kind of up in the air and then it settles back down. Eating a diet high in iron, calcium, and vitamin C. So things like salmon, avocado, broccoli, potatoes, nuts. Like I said, our body is trying, especially in children, trying to absorb nutrients. And these ones are great ones to kind of combat our body from absorbing that lead. So if we're eating a lot of calcium, our bones aren't absorbing as much as our body is intaking, so that lead is kind of being flushed through rather than being absorbed by our bones. Washing your hands, a big one that we all kind of know and love for any reason whatsoever. Always wash your hands. Not only bacteria, but lead. We're constantly touching things. We're constantly touching dirt, touching spaces that have dust. And if we're touching those spaces and then touching our face, eating, we can actually ingest that lead a lot easier. Lead isn't absorbed through the skin. So if it's on you, that's not an issue. It's if you actually end up ingesting it. Playing grass rather than in bare dirt spots. And make sure that you're removing your shoes before entering the house. If you have a welcome mat, making sure that all that dust is kind of getting off of you. And then wiping off your pet's paws. If you take them on a walk, just make sure you kind of wipe them off, get all that dirt off so they're not tracking it into your house. Hire a certified lead professional, especially if you are renovating a pre-1978 home. They will know how to contain anything that may cause exposure to you. So even if you're taking down a wall, all of that dust from taking down that wall, from that lead paint that could possibly be there, is a huge risk of exposure if you're not only in the area of when it's happening, but that dust kind of settling into your home as well. So making sure that you're working with professionals that are certified in helping get rid of that lead. Shower and change. Another kind of basic one, especially if you work outside, making sure that as you enter your home, you are changing and maybe showering off kind of the outside world before bringing it into your home to limit the exposure, kind of that consistent exposure to yourself, but also your family as well. And then washing your toys, pacifiers, bottles. We know that babies will put anything that they can in their mouth, and that is the biggest risk that babies have, is they will grab anything, put it in their mouth, and then lead is also very sweet. So they love to suck on things that actually have lead in them because it is a sweet taste. So making sure that just all of the toys and everything that they do put in their mouth is clean. Also, it's not on the slide, but making sure the EPA has a website that has all of the recalls that have been publicized because of lead contamination. So a lot of toys actually that you can find at your local stores could have a recall on them because of a lead contamination. So if you do have children, just getting those notifications of when that happens and just being aware of it. Run your water. This one's kind of, I don't want to say controversial, because when we think of running our water, I think the recommendation is to do it for like 30 seconds to 5 minutes, which is a crazy amount of time. And when we think about it, we're in a drought right now, so we really don't want to be doing that. So this doesn't just have to be turning on your faucet and just letting it run. It can be actually doing things with that water. It can be washing your dishes. It can be running your dishwasher. It can be running your laundry, taking a shower. That is clearing out your pipes while also being useful and actually having the water be used rather than just going right down your drain. It is also not recommended to boil your water. Boiling your water will not boil out the lead. It will just actually make your water more concentrated because the lead will stay while water is being evaporated out. So it is recommended to also kind of get a filter for your drinking water that is certified to take out the lead. And then you can also contact your water utility service or your plumber to test your water for lead and make sure that you're not having high levels of lead in your drinking water. Another big one is get your child tested. It is recommended to get them tested at 12 months and 24 months. It is a blood test. There is no other way to test for lead except for with a blood test. And then because symptoms of lead exposure aren't very easy to kind of catch. There's no major symptoms until it becomes so bad that you're at a point of coma or seizures. It's recommended to have your children tested at that 1 year age and that 2 year age, especially because if you see that they are having high levels of exposure, the faster that you cut off that exposure, the better. And then this is just kind of a PSA. If you are buying a pre-1978 home or even renting, you are supposed to get a pamphlet that does say protect your family, and it does give you all the information on lead within that house. So it is, whether you are a home buyer or renter, you should be receiving this pamphlet. And then if you haven't, you can submit a complaint to the EPA and they will do their thing. And then if you have any concerns, questions, this is the EPA hotline. They are open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So yeah. Does anyone have any questions about lead? Yeah. So it's a lot of more so imported spices. So a lot of spices that you'll get at ShopRite usually won't, but they are because they are grown in soil that can be contaminated with lead. They are actually recalled quite a bit because of lead contamination. So having that notification of those recalls, usually grocery stores are really good about like texting you if there's a recall on a product. Like I know I had like broccoli once and it was like, oh, recalled for E. coli. And they literally texted me because my credit card is linked to my phone. I don't know how they knew, but they were like, we know that you bought this. So usually stores are very good at telling you if there's recalls on items. But yeah, it's mainly because the soil could have had lead in it. And then that went into whatever was being used to make that spice. Yeah. I can't, promote any. I have a Life Straw. So I know Life Straw, certain ones do. If you just Google it, usually it'll tell you exactly what it filters out. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we have 3 source water protection ambassadors, and they are working with Rutgers, I believe, in the New Brunswick area. So a lot of the houses, the off-campus housing there, they don't know if the lead lines, if their pipes basically are lead or not. So they're starting a big project in that area to basically knock on doors and say, like, hey, can we look at your pipes? And identify if they are lead pipes, galvanized pipes, or if they're good. So, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So New Jersey is trying very hard to identify it and then make sure that we get it replaced. So, yeah. Anything else? Great. Thank you.
Tattoos.
Hmm?
Do they use lead paint and tattoos?
They do not.
Only in prison.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thanks, Jen. When I was a child, I always had a pot of lead. I used to make lead explosives.
Oh,
I used to make ciphers.
It's a big, big.
Seem enough to realize.
Yeah.
It's not a big, it's the bad your top recommendations.
I know every topic I think I learned, I knew a lot already. And then I learned something new. Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you so much, Jenna Black from AmeriCorps, Water Ambassadors. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to correspondence, we don't have any correspondence to look at. So the next item is, we have one application that we had previously looked at. And so we had already written one memo that is in here. So that's in here for your reference. I don't know that we have any new things to add. So that's really the question at this point. I think the new information is they did an environmental assessment. Yeah. So they provided an environmental assessment to us. And so the question is, do we want to say anything more in our memo that we've already, the memo from, that we sent already in November? So right now in the memo, we're capturing the stormwater capture basin, the rain basin that they had originally proposed, or is proposed, has a sand or rock bottom. And so we're recommending that some native plants be added to provide filtration and wildlife habitat. Also, we mentioned light pollution. So suggesting that lighting be directed downwards on a timer or turned off after business hours. And finally, they had their landscape plan had a couple non-natives, and so we made some recommendations regarding some native plants. Did anybody want to add anything else or see anything in this application at this time?
There's nothing new. There's no new construction or any kind of,
No, they are,
Anything.
isn't this the one they're building a new warehouse? But it's over on, it's in the warehouse area, right?
is this a new warehouse? This was just
Or is this the one that's
a
changing?
tenant change. Yeah, it's a tenant change.
It's just a tenant change, yeah. Any additional comments or questions or things you want to add? No? Okay. All right, moving on to public comment. We have no one else from the public here. So we will move on to reports. We don't have Marjorie here tonight, so do you want to do Trails Committee first, Landon?
Sure, I don't have much to report because we did not meet on the 10th. But our main priority was getting that transfer done on for the 14th. So we have all the information ready to go. We're just going to confirm all of that. It was so honestly worked out perfect that
Yeah.
the 13th is the meeting. It's due the 14th at 11:59. So town council passed the resolution on Tuesday or adopted it. And hopefully we'll hear a response back soon and then get that all moving forward. So glad that that's done. And then we'll see the process then and how that works for getting the next phase for the next cycle in 2025 and so on.
Great.
Well,
When's the
wait,
next meeting? Oh,
Sorry,
sorry.
go ahead.
What's up? What did you say, Neil?
What was due the 14th?
So the 14th is when the grant transfer is due at 11:59.
When you say due, what is that?
Like the deadline for a transfer.
Oh, okay. And you have that all spent? Is that all that $2,000 accounted for?
So right now, that's the point of discussion that I wanted to bring up, where we have a quote for $1,631.77, and that's for pure signage. There's a 10%, which is $200 maximum for promotional stuff, and then we are going to be doing it in-house through our parks department, so there's no extra costs inquired there. And we have the map scanned and everything via PDF, so there's no inquired extra cost there as well. So if does anyone have any particular ideas of how we can propose then to use that extra $200 then in a promotional fashion? We can traditionally do, a press to, our local area and such, and they talk about potentially doing a ribbon ceremony, but
Yeah.
what is anyone else's?
Ribbon ceremony would work. And also you could do a press release, tap into, we already have a contractor with, so that wouldn't be an additional expense. But if you did the Herald and or what's Sparta Independent, that would be an additional charge.
Great. And that's about it. Then there's like two other documents additional with the budget template and the action plan, which involves those type of activities. So I'm glad that that's all done. I appreciate you bringing that up, Neil, so that the township is still eligible for everything.
Glad to do it. I think that the deadline for the 2025 grants is the 21st of February, right?
I believe so. I'll confirm that.
So that doesn't give us much time to come up with another grant request.
Were you trying to do another grant request for the trails or anything?
For anything.
Oh, yeah.
And I know the trails could use it if you have,
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah,
at that stage with anything.
It's a one-year submission cycle with 3 rounds, Sunday, February 23rd, 2025 at 11:59.
Right, but do you have, would you have another use for a
We
small or?
we definitely can inquire, but we're still so early on the type of things.
Yeah,
Let me look more into that and see if we have some ideas, but it's based off of where we're at with the committee and the projects that we're planning. It's still early in organizing the logistics before bringing the grant money in, which is the difficult part, where there is one particular project that could inquire and has moved quite along. So I'll reach out to the people involved in that and see if it's reasonable.
right.
And
like
if that sum of money could be useful And if that deadline turnaround date seems reasonable, that we can get some solid proposal in for maybe the larger pots that are available.
Right. Like, like gravel or something, you know.
Absolutely,
loaded
that's
gravel,
that's what
stuff
I
like
was
that.
exactly. Something that's, you know, low hanging fruit, but is not you know, a cheap thing to do.
Right.
So something that the town could definitely benefit from. So I like those ideas, and I'll reach out to the main committee member who's been kind of leading on the trail research and see what he thinks we can use with that money.
Great.
The gravel idea probably is the most logistical sense.
Does it have to be tied to a specific action of Sustainable Jersey? Like, would gravel fit within any of the guidelines?
I don't think so, but there is an action for, you know, bicycling,
Okay.
greenways,
Okay.
pedestrian
And do they allow, like, would they allow a township to have two active grants at the same time?
Well, this grant that we were transferring was from 2023.
Right. No, I understand that, but right, we're gonna use the money now. So would they let both things happen at the same time, or?
We have to use the money before we can apply for another grant.
Okay.
That's why it's pretty tight. I don't know. how-
Yeah, so it might not work for this
Yeah.
first timeline.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Unless we have another idea for a grant proposal for something else.
Yeah, again, I know we've talked about this before, but we should like keep a running list of our ideas so that when these things come up, we can go, oh yeah, we had that in our back pocket to pull forward to do, but we haven't really done that yet.
But at least ensuring a grant transfer that can keep us in good standing for future cycles
Yeah,
in future years.
exactly. Yep. Okay. Neil, do you want to talk about master plan
Uh,
subcommittee?
I'd love to, but I have nothing to say because we haven't met yet, and I know the planning chair. I think she mentioned getting another meeting together, but with no date yet.
Okay.
At the last planning board meeting, so
Okay.
I got nothing there.
All right. And then Rob, planning board, any updates?
I mean, we reviewed the PCED ordinances that were brought forward by town council, just for consistency. If you guys took a look at them, they kind of narrow the uses in certain areas of PCED. And then one of the hearings carried, we heard a couple applications. One of them is the Upper Lake Plaza. It was just need a yeah. So there was no issue with that, and the other one was Pop's Bagels, which, you know, I think we're all happy that something's moving in there, and they're able to reduce the impervious. I think it's like 97 now, so I want to say it's like 92, 93 is what they're shooting for. So it's not a big reduction, but it is a reduction. They're going to, they're limited with what plantings they could do because it's all paved over. But they're perfectly willing to add some plantings, and they're perfectly willing to make those plantings be native plantings. So I think they're pretty flexible on the stuff that environmental could expect them to reasonably do on that site. And if anyone watched it, it was more focused on the traffic ins and outs of that tricky area.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely a tricky corner.
yep. But I wish them well, and that's kind of I think it for planning, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right, we had quite a bit of unfinished business. The first item is the Sustainable New Jersey certification. One of the items that we had to do, there was a little bit of confusion. I thought we could go ahead and submit for this first round to get the feedback without the green team resolution. And so I thought we had a little bit more time to get that done. Turns out we did not. And so Michelle and Emily very quickly got it on the agenda for this past Tuesday, and the Green Team resolution did get passed. So anything that you do want to have ready for this first round to start getting feedback, definitely include this, and then we can go ahead and submit. The next one, though, is still the land use pledge, which does still need to move forward. So I think that is still under review with the lawyer? Okay. And then it should also be presented to the planning board too, I would think, Rob, once the town lawyer has a chance to look at it.
What's
Right.
the actual process for the upload? Because it's on a Sunday. So who's actually clicking the button? Does it have to come from the town or can one of us do it?
Clicking the button for what?
Or review of Sustainable Jersey?
Well, everything that you complete is ready for review, right? Everything that's marked completed?
So there's no extra step. Once it's in there, then we're good?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know about that though, because Michelle kept saying, but when we hit the button.
Yeah. I'll double check
Okay.
just to make sure. Because we're working towards this deadline, so I want to make sure we hit it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
3 years ago when we did it, I was not on that committee. I wasn't that involved at the time, so I don't, Michelle really was, again, even at that time, instrumental.
She was doing all
Yeah,
the work.
doing the bulk
all
of the
the-
work.
I know though, right now, I could just say for that I talked to Christine Dunbar today, and we were uploading, going back and forth on the road salt action. So now we're at 85 points in the system completed. So we're getting there, but I'm going to be able to update the action for Jenna's lead presentation now that she did her session today. So we're slowly clawing our way to the 150. So I think we should be good and be able to make the deadline.
Awesome. Okay.
That'll be good for 3 years, or?
Yeah, it's 3 years.
Okay, and we still do have, just I'll mention this, so anybody who's listening, we do still have 2 other deadlines. If round 1, we don't manage to get the whole 150 in, we do have the second round. But the good thing about getting the first round in, then people can review it, make comments, you have a chance to update things, so that's the advantage.
But we don't have to wait until the next round to submit more actions.
Right,
As
exactly.
long as we know that.
Yep. Okay. Earth Day celebration.
Okay,
Okay,
so at the last meeting, if you remember, I was talking about the Board of Ed approval. So then the next day I followed up with Kara and I said, are we good? Did we get the approval? And she said, no, because the Board of Ed didn't approve it because they didn't have the insurance paperwork on file ahead of time. So I worked with Michelle to get all of that information to them. So all the insurance paperwork was submitted. I talked to Kara today, actually, and said, what is the latest status for our meeting? So she said it was approved, that we are good to move forward. The only thing she still needs to get is the final cost. So she's going to get that on Tuesday for me because they're out of school. But apparently we have some preliminary approval with the date being May 3rd from 10 to 2, which is the Saturday. But obviously, nothing is confirmed. We're not going to publicize it until we
Right.
get the price and make sure that we can.
Right. So, so the use of it is approved, but what's not approved is like how much they're gonna charge the township or not charge the
Right.
township or whatever.
So I don't know if that is approved, like they have a number and she just isn't aware of it, but she's
Okay.
going to confirm on Tuesday when they get
Okay.
back to school.
All right. And then did we ever find out what our budget is? Or we still don't know what our budget is?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Can you check with
yeah, I'll double check with
Michelle on
Michelle.
that, on
Yep.
that one? Yeah. I know we have some budget and they were talking about it should be increased, but I don't know whatever happened with that.
And then, so the cost would be then for a janitor, and a security guard. And then Kara also wanted to find out if we can potentially have a budget category for some prizes for the kids' corner. So once we know the final cost, we can determine that.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure last time we did cover, there was like
Yeah, it was nothing major.
tablecloths and garbage bags,
Right.
and there were some incremental things we did
Right.
cover. Okay. Next thing, speaker presentation schedule. So we had Jenna Black. Do we have anyone scheduled?
Yes, so next month on March 13th, we're going to have Lisa Chiarello come, and she's going to be presenting about native plants and do a presentation that's plant this, not that.
Yeah,
So hopefully we
got it.
get some good attendance with that.
Yeah. And so that needs to get in a press release also. Do we have a flyer for that one yet?
Yes,
or-
that was,
Okay.
Emily, that was sent to you
Yes,
in
I have.
January.
I don't think we had this, tonight's presentation on the township website, was it?
I'm pretty sure it was
Sorry, I
on the website
Wasn't-
and it got into tap into, but
Yeah, I
not
saw it
until
there.
this week. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't see it on the website, but maybe I've just missed it, but if we could,
Was the lead on the website? Do you know?
Lead's everywhere.
Huh?
Sorry.
I don't know if it's on the website yet, but I'll,
Okay.
I'll double check.
So just, we could make sure that we could get the
Yeah.
next one up.
Awesome. That's amazing, Christine, all these speakers. I'm learning something new every time.
Yeah.
Good, it's nice variety.
All right, Christine Dunbar's not here on the New Jersey Salt Watch. Do you want to give an update or you want me to say what I know what's happening?
Yeah, you could say what you know.
Okay. So, interesting to note that I was putting my results into the wrong Salt Watch website. So last year she kept saying she didn't see my results. And this year she kept saying she couldn't see them because I was using the wrong website. But now I've put them in both places, so we're good. And then I don't know how many were able to participate on the January 31st. That was that Friday that we're all supposed to get samples. I didn't do all 7 of my sites. I did 5 of the 7, I think, on that Friday. So was anybody else able to participate in that?
I did, yes, I think I did 2 sites.
2 sites on that Friday?
Right.
Awesome.
Are you doing by the Walk-Hill by the Mohawk Avenue School?
No,
Okay, so
I
that
haven't
one,
been doing that
that
one.
one, all right, I'll take that one over then.
Yeah.
too, 'cause I-
Okay, great.
The Miser's Pond stream is still frozen, so I haven't been able
Oh.
to.
Yeah, I had a great time trying to get some of the lakes. Like I had to go out on the lakes and like poke a hole.
Yeah.
So that was a good time.
Well, then you picking it from the surface, or are you going down? 'Cause that's the other thing too. Like,
Yeah,
where are you getting it from?
yeah. I mean, as close to the beach as I could
Yeah. Okay.
is
That's-
where I was getting it from. I don't know
makes
what the
sense.
right thing is to do. And then one of the streams that is extremely high is the one that flows, you know where the Chinese restaurant is in that strip mall?
Yeah.
Askin and Hooker's across the street, then
In that
then
walk.
behind there is the stream. That is very salty, and the salt content has actually gone up again. So high, it wasn't even registering. It was like above 760. Yeah. So anyway, I think this is a great, great thing to be doing, to keep watching this. And I think we have until March 1st to keep doing that. All right. Oh, and the other thing was during Salt Week, they did have all the educational sessions that were recorded. You can still get them on the New Jersey Salt Watch webpage if you want to go back and watch them. All right. Rob, is this you? Dark sky lighting ordinance?
Yeah, Emily, thanks. I didn't expect this to be printed out because I kind of put this together and sent it pretty late today. So I mean, we talked about different things: buffer zone, native plants, tree ordinance, artificial turf, dark skies, and green infrastructure. And I think native plants and tree ordinance are in process, right?
Yep.
So buffer zones, we have a template that is from Lake Mohawk that we can look at. Artificial turf, I'm still digging into that. Green infrastructure, there's many facets to that. So I had kind of been looking at dark sky because they have some handy templates. So you'll see like an outdoor lighting ordinance, which has kind of notes to the reader in blue and then to swap in red. And it doesn't have to be this. This is pretty robust and detailed. I don't know. It's probably more than it needs to be, but then again, everything, if you start to look at, is pretty good. So the overarching things are that this ordinance looks at 5 principles. It doesn't have to, but I think it's worthwhile. So the first one is light useful? So the suggestion, use light only if it's needed.
I saw that. This is great. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Go.
So, I mean, we
Sorry.
kind of like already, my thing is we're looking at applications, we're making advice on a case-by-case basis. And I am seeing this now with like planning and minor site plan stuff, where everything seems to be like on a case-by-case basis and kind of if it warrants it. And so I would be a fan of kind of working on creating the structure and the process that we can fall back on, because I think that gives us more credibility and it protects the township if we say like, but these are our guidelines according to the best practices, the best information of today. They can always be modified, they can be relaxed, they can be made more stringent. But until we have that, then we're kind of relying on, you know, opinion and facts. But if we put this together, put these things together and they're thoughtful and we can defend them, then we can hold an application against them and feel pretty confident that, you know, we're not arbitrary and capricious, right? And then if someone else takes a position, they have this to fall back on, so it's consistent through the years and decades of review. So, you know, as much as this is detailed, I don't think it's a bad thing. So if you guys want to take a look at it, again, I know I finally got some time to just put it together today, and it was putting it together, it was pulling together some templates, but it's pretty good. And again, so number 1 is use light only if it's needed. 2, direct the light so that it's where it needs to be, target it. Be kind of conservative with your light. Energy is relatively cheap. With LEDs, light is even cheaper nowadays, so light should be no brighter than necessary. It's very easy to overdo it. And kind of in the same vein, it should be controlled. So you can use timers and motion detectors to ensure that it's available when it's needed. And then always, you know, lean towards warm colored. If you guys have seen on your devices, you know, it's like nighttime mode, it'll switch and get rid of those blue, cooler wavelengths that interrupt our circadian rhythm. And like that right there, that's kind of the argument for, that's one of the arguments for controlling this excess light, is if we're staring at our devices and we're looking at this cool blue and it's keeping us up at all hours, then in the same way, if we have this commercial lighting that we're seeing and we're being exposed to, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to do the same thing and more to the environment around us and the creatures that inhabit that. So, and then just, I think, like, again, this is so detailed. It could help us with some of the other ordinances because it's pretty well structured, it's pretty well vetted. And I would, yeah, I welcome, I guess, you guys taking a look at it, seeing what you think, And then I would kind of like to move this forward. I included a section on signage because signage has been something that I never really noticed before because I didn't need to, but now I need to look at some signs and facades and stuff like that. And there's a lot of good suggestions in here. So even though it's not necessary, like I would see this committee kind of just looking at commercial lighting when we're reviewing applications, but I think the signage is equally important and there's obvious crossover. So there's a lot of, good tables and
Yep.
units and measurements that it's hard to refute. So,
Okay.
all right.
So next step is between now and the next meeting, review this. Should we send you comments
Yeah. And
as
I
we
mean,
do that?
you'll see where if you go to Dark Skies, if you go to those links, you can see where I cobbled this together from. But I included some options so that you guys have opportunities to weigh in without me kind of pre-selecting.
Okay.
So like under illuminated signage, it kind of directs you, please choose one of the following paths for municipal requirements. So, but we already have some stuff on the book. So
Okay.
I kind of want to see what this committee thinks, and then I want to see what planning thinks. I want to see what minor site committee thinks, and then what lawyers think, and
Yeah.
And I highlighted the electronic signage because while it shouldn't apply, some of the verbiage might be able to be repurposed in other areas.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much
Thanks.
for pulling this
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
This handy little graph is amazing too.
Yeah,
Love
that's
summary.
like that right there. I think is I don't
Yeah.
know an easy one
Very
to
helpful.
adopt.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Buffer zones, you said you have potentially a draft.
Yeah, I think I emailed that.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
Well, it's not a big deal. It's fine. I mean, nothing's really growing or buffering right now.
Yeah.
But I'll email it again.
Okay. Thank you so
As a
much.
separate email with that as the subject line, just what already exists for around the lakes.
Okay.
And then same thing, if people want to weigh in on that. I don't know. I think artificial turf and green infrastructure, I mean, unless someone feels strongly, like I'd rather see where this goes first and then kind of copy the template.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. All right. So we'll focus on the dark skies next. New business. I think, was it you, Christine, who wanted to talk about the diesel modernization?
Yes.
Okay.
So the other day, I saw a press release from the DEP come out that the Murphy administration was announcing $35 million in new funding for local government vehicle electrification projects. So this is a rolling application that would help local governments electrify some of the vehicles that they're using. And this could be anything from school buses to shuttles, transit buses, garbage trucks, dump trucks, but it's a lot of money available.
Yeah.
It says so it's different categories, whether you're an overburdened community or small government or small business. But it said that the incentive range just for the base level was $15,000 to $270,000, depending on what kind of truck you're talking about upgrading. So it's definitely worth taking a look at and seeing if there's any vehicles that we're going to be updating in the next year or so, because there's money available and it's a rolling application. So I think it behooves us, if there are any purchases that are going to be made, do it sooner rather than later and apply for the money. It didn't sound like a too complicated of an application either. So
Okay.
I could send the information. Do I just send it to you, Emily, and Michelle, and then
Share it with Jim and
Yeah.
Who's our DEP person now? Yeah,
Or DPW.
DPW, I mean. I can
Oh,
never-
either Christine Smith or, Joseph, I forget his last name.
But I just send it to,
Sergio? No.
Something with that.
Is that the fire inspector? No.
should I just, so should I send it to you and to Michelle and then you can pass
Yeah,
it
we can
to
pass it on to.
who it needs to go
whoever.
to?
Us too, yeah.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Christine, this isn't the same as the direct pay program, is it?
I don't think so. This is new, I think, in addition to funding that's already come out, but we can clarify what, I'm not actually familiar with what
The,
that
the-
is.
The direct pay was, I think it's a federal program, for, some kind of tax, rebates.
No, I don't think that's what this
No,
is.
that's-
This is grant funding.
Yeah, oh, okay, good. So,
And it says that it's from leveraging proceeds from New Jersey's participation in the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative.
Nice.
Good.
Okay. All right. Next new business item was a new bill that's been introduced here in New Jersey, which will require packaging of different, all kinds of packaging actually, to be cut by 50% over the next 10 years. Primarily, it is to try to address both plastic pollution that, you see, but also the microplastics that are showing up, the PFAS and the microplastics that are found in all parts of the human body. So obviously, plastic is getting everywhere in our environment, similar to the lead presentation we just saw. And so there's definitely an opinion that we cannot recycle our way out of the plastic crisis. And so we have to address it by also reducing the amount of plastic that is getting into the environment. So Jim Zepp asked us to take a look at this and just see if we had if we supported, if we were opposed, or if we had any other feedback or additional comments on it. I know many food lobbyists are saying that the bill is actually unworkable and not realistic. I don't know. I've bought things recently and they come with an enormous amount of plastic still, even though we're recycling the, what do you call it? The plastic bags now and stuff. Yeah, it's still, seems to be a lot. At the very least, I think we need to come up with another material to be packaging things in. So, I don't know if folks I think this did go out, so I don't know if you had a chance to read it or had any thoughts or concerns.
I have to look into it a little more.
Okay,
no, I saw a video of Senator Smith talking about this yesterday or today. Seems like a good thing to me.
yeah, I'm kind of, definitely support it. Okay, take a look at it, and if we have any comments that we want to share with Jim, let me know, and we'll go from there. Is there any additional new business that didn't make it on the agenda that we want to address? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Rob. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Landon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great.